I got a comment from one of my subscribers describing how happy I have been this past year. He was watching some of my older videos and saw the big progression of joy in myself throughout the past year to 2 years. And I thought I would make a video talking about the big reason why I've been so happy. I've kind of freed myself from a major prison in my life, and I hope to completely free myself one day, but that's a very philosophical issue, because I'll talk about what the prison is in my life. 2 years ago, I used to have binge eating problems. See, a lot of people look at me and they can't believe I ever had an eating disorder, right? Even 2 years ago, they look at me, I wasn't very overweight. The problem is that when I wanted to eat something, nothing could stop me, and I got into major conflicts, social problems, and I just wasn't fun to be around with when I was having a craving. I lost jobs over it. I lost relationships over it. I got evicted from one apartment over something like that. I had a little bit of a saga with a roommate here. I wasn't upset at the roommate. I was upset at myself today, actually, or this past week, actually, because I realized that the same situation, had it happened years ago, could have caused me to get evicted from the place. And so when I saw what happened this week, it gave me a heavy heart, and I wanted to deal with it. Okay, back to the past. So 2 years ago, 2020, I made a resolution to normalize my relationship with food. I chose the best year to do it because 2 months after I made the resolution, it made me realize just how much food was controlling me, right? Even though we were all told how dangerous it was to go out to the grocery store, my food craving was overriding that, right? And it was a big wake-up call to me. During the George Floyd protests, when people were shooting up Target stores, and my food craving was still overriding that, it was getting better by that point. It was a big wake-up call. I don't even have control of my life anymore. When I'm needing to focus on my job, when I'm involved in a relationship and I still want to go out to get food, it's just like I don't have control of my life anymore. Now, I hope to one day, I know this is philosophical, I hope to one day completely stop eating altogether, put on some wings and just fly away from food and say goodbye forever. I don't see how it's done physically, but spiritually I want to do it. I hope to seriously cut back on how often I eat, right? My goal right now I eat about once a day, but my goal is to eat 3 times a week eventually. That will free up a lot of time and space. You see, when I eat once a day instead of 2 or 3 times a day, not only am I saving that 1 or 2 meals, but it also puts some control on where I'm doing the eating, and it makes things a whole lot more cleaner. Right? When you eat 3 times a day, sooner or later you're forced to eat in the car, in front of your computer, and it just becomes a mess, right? I've noticed how clean everything is in my bedroom. I don't have food wrappers everywhere in my car. I haven't needed to get my car detailed in a 1.5 years now. When I'm eating once a day, the where and when I'm eating is much more controlled compared to if I had to eat constantly, right? It's kind of like if you had a computer that only needed to be charged once every 24 hours, right? Unfortunately, I don't, right? You stop worrying about if there's an outlet at the coffee shop, right, or at the airport, or at the library, right? You can stop worrying about that, right? That's how I feel about my eating. It's freed myself from having to worry about where I can eat and who I'm eating around, right? So I hope to don those wings and fly far, far away from food, and I'll be free. And see, I love it. Everything being so clean. Every time I have to eat, I feel so heavy-hearted after I have a big meal. So, right now I'm living in Levine Village in Phoenix. I was living in another apartment in Phoenix when I got into an argument with the owner. He needed to move me, and he locked me out of the place saying that there was a water leak. I mean, you could just tell me there's a water leak and I'll move everything, right? And he was wanting to help me move, and I had just come back from dinner, and he just locked me out of the place and explained to me, and he called me and said he'll be over, and I don't know why he did it in that order. Had he just left a note or even texted me and say, hey, would you mind moving tonight because there's an emergency, I would have handled it, right? But I had just eaten and my mind wasn't working very clearly, and long story short, I got into a serious disagreement, and that's when I moved to this place. Well, that's the kind of problem I run into after I'm eating. I'm very heavy-hearted after a big meal, right? When I'm fasting, like right now, 13, 14 hours into a fast, I can think very clearly. And that's why I hope to never eat again, or at least eat very infrequently, right? Like once every few days, so that I can have a better control of where it happens, right? I hope to one day travel somewhere again right after the pandemic, and if I completely free myself from eating, I think a lot of places would open up. Right. If I could go 2 weeks without eating, I think a lot of vacation destinations where food might not be safe would open up. Someday I hope to travel to space as well. If I free myself from eating, a lot of that would open up as well. A lot of doors is open, right? When I think about driving from Phoenix to, I hope to go to what's that crater? Meteor Crater. It's a 3-hour drive away. Spend the day there and not having to think about packing food, especially because of the weather right now, right? It's triple digits. Can't really bring food for the trip. Not having to think about that really frees up a lot of possibilities, right? That's what I want to bring up. See, a lot of people, when they go, I often see people saying they can't afford to go on a healthy diet, or they can't imagine how they're going to diet, right? Or I'm thinking to myself, how about you think about what you're gaining, right? You're freeing up all the time and money that you're putting into all this crap, right? You're freeing up your mobility, right? I don't know why everybody thinks about what they're losing, right? It's really about what you're freeing yourself from. Anyways, that's been a big source of why I've been so much happier ever since going on the fast, right? I never view a fast as giving up food, right? It's gaining the mobility, the time, the money, and unfortunately, it's kind of funny because yesterday I was going over, we're thinking about reopening the campus where I'm working, and I was thinking about how my budget would look like when I go back to Seattle. So I pulled up old credit card bills from back when I actually had an eating disorder, and I looked and I was like, I can't afford to eat like that anymore. And I'm like, oh, I don't have to. And which is kind of funny because I saved all this money from not binge eating, but I don't seem to have it to show anything to show for it because it's gotten dissolved in other parts of my budget. Kind of like lottery syndrome, right? You start getting used to your lottery payments that you won, and all of a sudden you can't budget the way you used to anymore. Just kind of weird. Anyway. Alright. Enjoy fasting or whatever your goal is this year.